Well, the Colts going through their fifth quarterback change so far, and this one feels a little different. Matt Ryan this offseason, 2016 MVP, has been showing off in camp. Still got some zip in the tank at 37, but when it comes to the man in the middle on the defense, Darius Leonard, he's been the leader of that unit, dealt with some lingering ankle injuries, along with some back injuries that prompted surgery. So question marks when it comes to him on the defensive side, and he's been a beast the past 4 seasons. Despite an injury that affected him throughout the 2021 season, Leonard played about 91% of the plays on defensive stats there. He missed 1 game due to COVID, produced 122 tackles, 8 forced fumbles, all the way to his 3rd first-team All-Pro nod, but question marks. Health will be the key for him heading into the season in 2022. All right, time to welcome in Ryan Wilson to break this all down. And Ryan, look, nobody likes to hear lingering issues from the previous season heading into the next year. But when you hear that and you're a Colts fan, do you get a little nervous about Leonard's availability come week 1?
Yeah, I'll do you one better, Brandon. So it was the ankle injury that we heard about. And then Frank Reich mentioned recently that there are back concerns now with Darius Leonard there, and that's a big issue. Ankles are one thing, and then backs, you sort of wonder how that's going to play itself out. There's a doctor once said, how many times have you heard of a back injury getting better over the course of a football career? And that's fair to wonder. And Darius Leonard is, quote-unquote, undersized as an off-ball linebacker, but he plays at such a high level, and he's so important to what the Colts do in the middle of that defense, and that's reflected in that salary where he's averaging over $19 million a year. And if he's not there, that's a huge concern. The Matt Ryan news is fantastic. They drafted Alex Pierce, the wide receiver, to perhaps replace T.Y. Hilton. That's great news. But the reality is it starts with Darius Leonard in the middle of that defense. And if he's not out there, the backup is E.J. Speed. E.J. Speed has started exactly 0 NFL games in 3 seasons. He's 26 years old. Frank Reich said he'll be getting some reps now. But you have Bobby Okereke right next to Darius Leonard at that position. But you want Darius Leonard out there. He has to get healthy. They don't play in a great division, but the Titans are still the defending champs in that division. So you need Darius Leonard out there to compete once that season rolls around in a few months.
He's been a tackle machine for the Colts and stepping on that field from South Carolina State. Elsewhere, the Rams, Leonard Floyd, look, he played through an ankle injury as well last season, had 9.5 sacks, had surgery this offseason. There's no Von Miller on the opposite side. So if you're looking at them, they want him to produce at the age of 30. Is that a chance for him to do this season?
Yeah, I got 2 words for you. Aaron Donald. As long as Aaron Donald's on your team, you have a chance to be a really good football player. And look, Aaron Donald recently said that Leonard Floyd has become one of these team leaders that has stepped up to help these young defensive guys who are coming into the fold in Los Angeles now that Von Miller has left. And I think that's great news for Leonard Floyd. He spoke to being appreciative of those words from Aaron Donald. But also, you talked about those 9.5 sacks last year, Brandon. First 4 years in Chicago, he averaged about 4.5 sacks a year. Last 2 years in Los Angeles, he has 20 sacks. So again, Aaron Donald's probably helping him out. He likes playing on a winning football team, and he did play through that ankle injury. I think those are all signs pointing to him to continue to progress as a player in Los Angeles, not only in terms of getting after the quarterback, but also as being a leader in the post-Von Miller world.
Interesting to see how he pans out now that he's healthy and at 9.5. That's hard to do with injuries as well. Vikings pass rush, they got a little interesting, adding to Darius Smith this offseason, pairing it with Danielle Hunter. Both dealt with injuries in the past. Both are healthy coming in so far, fingers crossed. But how scary could this duo be in Minnesota?
This is going to be fun to watch. And you mentioned the health, and that's going to be the most important thing. 2020, Danielle Hunter didn't play at all because of a herniated disc. Only played a handful of snaps last year. Darius Smith has also battled injuries during his time in Green Bay. But the good news is Mike Smith, the linebackers coach in Minnesota, was with Zadarius Smith in Green Bay. Mike Pettin also is now, who was on staff as a DC in Green Bay, is now on staff in Minnesota. So they're going to bring a lot of the same concepts that they had in Green Bay that made Zadarius Smith so dangerous in terms of moving around pre-snap, and apply that not only to Zadarius Smith, but also to Danielle Hunter. So you have them as bookends, but they can be rushing from the inside. You can line them up just about anywhere you want. And the Vikings did a really good job during the draft process of fixing this defense with young, fast players. They got Brian Asamoah, one of Pete Prisco's favorite players. They drafted Lewis Seen, the safety out of Georgia. He ran into the 4.3s. Andrew Booth Jr., the cornerback out of Clemson. So all together, you have a good mix of young and old, but it starts up front with those 2 guys, Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, and look for them to line up just about everywhere because that's what's going to happen, and that's what happened in Green Bay when Smith was so successful.
You mentioned guys line up everywhere. That was Micah Parsons last year in Dallas. He was the X factor for Dan Quinn in that group, the reason why they were top 15 in the league. Looking at the numbers he put up last year, they kind of need an encore because there's no Randy Gregory on the opposite side of D-Law there. Chances that happens for him in year 2.
Well, the NFL teams know about him now. We'll see if that matters. I mean, they sort of figured out Micah Parsons was good right around Halloween last year, and they still couldn't stop him. So I don't know if that changes anything. He's had an entire offseason to get healthy and stronger and get back to that form that he's going to head into the training camps with. I think it's going to be a lot of what we saw last year, Brandon. He is so incredibly explosive. You talked about lining up anywhere. He didn't even play edge rusher at Penn State. He played a few snaps in high school. He was mostly an off-ball linebacker. They needed him outside in Dallas. He came in, and he not only did well, he dominated. So you mentioned Randy Gregory's gone. They drafted Sam Williams to hopefully replace that. But that's a huge ass with Randy Gregory. So you have D-Law. You have Micah Parsons, who, again, is sort of like the Aaron Donald answer to the question in Dallas. If you have him, everything else should be okay. You have Trevon Diggs on the back end. But it's going to start with what we have here in Micah Parsons. He has to step up. You'd like to see DeMarcus Lawrence return to form as well. But, again, a lot of questions on that defense, and we'll see how it turns out. Again, luckily they don't play in a very good division. They have Dak Prescott. Mike McCarthy needs to prove himself as a head coach. It's good to have someone like Micah Parsons out there in your defense.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.